This is what happens when family means nothing. Jacob Fatu just destroyed every single bond, every moment of brotherhood, every second of loyalty that the bloodline ever represented, and I am furious about how this went down at Night of Champions 2025. What we witnessed wasn't just a championship match, it was the systematic destruction of everything sacred about family in professional wrestling, and Jacob Fatu should be ashamed of himself for what he did to Solo Sikoa. You think you know betrayal? You think you've seen family turn on family before? Nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the absolute travesty that unfolded when Jacob Fatu defended his United States Championship against the man who made him, the man who believed in him, the man who gave him everything, Solo Sikoa. This wasn't just a match, this was character assassination of the highest order. Let's talk about what Solo Sikoa did for Jacob Fatu, because apparently nobody remembers how this story actually started. When Roman Reigns abandoned the bloodline, when Paul Heyman turned his back on the family, when everyone else was running away like cowards, Solo Sikoa stood tall. He rebuilt the bloodline from nothing. He took Jacob Fatu, a man who was impressive in other promotions but was nobody in WWE, and gave him the platform to become a champion. Solo didn't just recruit Jacob Fatu, he elevated him. He saw potential where others saw just another big man with limited upside. Solo gave Fatu the guidance, the protection, the family structure that allowed him to capture the United States Championship in the first place. And how does Jacob Fatu repay that loyalty? By turning Night of Champions into his personal vendetta showcase. The disrespect started from the moment Jacob Fatu's music hit. Instead of showing any acknowledgement of what Solo had done for him, instead of any sign of gratitude or respect, Fatu came out with this arrogant swagger like he was the one who built the bloodline legacy. The audacity was staggering. This is a man who owes everything to Solo Sikoa's leadership and vision. When the bell rang, what we got wasn't a respectful contest between family members fighting for a championship. What we got was Jacob Fatu systematically trying to humiliate the man who gave him everything. Every move, every taunt, every moment of that match was designed to make Solo Sikoa look weak, to make him look like he never deserved to lead the bloodline in the first place. The worst part? Solo Sikoa fought with honor. Even as Jacob Fatu was disrespecting him, even as Fatu was showboating and playing to the crowd like some kind of hero, Solo maintained his dignity. He fought like a true leader, like someone who understood what the bloodline legacy actually meant. Solo's performance was a masterclass in what it means to be a warrior with principles. But Jacob Fatu. He fought like a man with no soul, no honor, no understanding of what family means. When Solo was down, instead of helping him up like family should, Fatu stomped on him. When Solo was struggling, instead of showing mercy, Fatu taunted him. This wasn't wrestling, this was abuse disguised as sports entertainment. The crowd was eating it up, cheering for Jacob Fatu like he was some kind of conquering hero, but what they were really cheering for was the destruction of everything beautiful about the bloodline story. They were cheering for betrayal. They were cheering for ingratitude. They were cheering for the complete abandonment of family values. There were specific moments in this match that made me physically ill to watch, and I need to break them down because people need to understand just how disgusting Jacob Fatu's behavior really was. First, there was the moment when Solo Sikoa went for his finishing move. The Samoan spike that has been a family tradition for decades. Instead of taking it like a warrior, Jacob Fatu mocked the move. He pretended to be hurt, then laughed in Solo's face. That wasn't just disrespecting Solo, that was disrespecting generations of Samoan wrestling tradition. It was spitting on the legacy of their entire family tree. Then came the sequence that absolutely broke my heart. Solo was attempting a comeback, fighting from his knees, showing the heart of a true champion, the spirit of someone who refuses to quit despite being betrayed by his own family. And what did Jacob Fatu do? He slapped Solo across the face. Not a wrestling move, not a strategic attack, a slap. Like Solo was some kind of child who needed to be disciplined. The look on Solo's face after that slap will haunt me forever. It wasn't pain from the physical contact. It was the emotional devastation of realizing that the man he had trusted, the man he had elevated, the man he had treated like a brother, had absolutely no respect for him whatsoever. But the absolute worst moment came near the end of the match. Solo Sikoa, fighting through exhaustion and emotional trauma, managed to get Jacob Fatu in a submission hold. For a brief moment, it looked like justice might prevail, like the true leader of the bloodline might reclaim his rightful place at the top. And then Jacob Fatu did something so vile, so disgusting, that I can barely bring myself to describe it. He grabbed the championship belt, his own championship belt, and used it as a weapon while the referee was distracted. He hit Solo Sikoa with the very title that Solo had helped him win. The symbolism was sickening. What happened after Jacob Fatu retained his United States Championship proved everything I've been saying about his character. A real champion, a man with actual honor, would have helped Solo Sikoa to his feet. He would have shown respect to his former leader. He would have acknowledged the man who made his success possible. Instead, Jacob Fatu celebrated like he had just conquered some random opponent. He posed with the championship belt, he played to the crowd, he acted like this victory meant something positive. He showed zero remorse, zero acknowledgement of what he had just done to his family. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa was left lying in the ring, not just physically defeated but emotionally destroyed. The man who had sacrificed everything to rebuild the bloodline, who had given Jacob Fatu the opportunity of a lifetime, was abandoned and humiliated on the biggest stage possible. The camera caught Solo's face as he was struggling to get up, and what I saw there was pure heartbreak. This wasn't a man who was upset about losing a wrestling match. This was a man who was devastated by the betrayal of someone he had trusted implicitly. This was a leader who had been abandoned by the very person he had tried to elevate. What made this entire situation even more infuriating was how the crowd reacted to this travesty. They were cheering for Jacob Fatu. They were treating this betrayal like it was some kind of heroic moment. They were celebrating the destruction of family bonds like it was entertainment. This is what's wrong with wrestling fans today. They see flashy moves and impressive athleticism, and they completely ignore the moral implications of what they're watching. They cheer for betrayal because it's exciting. They support ingratitude because it makes for good television. They celebrate the abandonment of family values because it creates compelling storylines. The fact that Jacob Fatu was getting cheered while Solo Sikoa was being pitted shows exactly how backwards wrestling culture has become. We're supposed to be celebrating loyalty, brotherhood, and family unity. Instead, we're rewarding selfishness, betrayal, and complete disrespect for the people who helped create our success. Let's be absolutely clear about who the real victim is in this situation. Solo Sikoa is the most underappreciated leader in WWE history. This is a man who stepped up when everyone else was running away. When Roman Reigns left, when Paul Heyman turned traitor, when the entire bloodline structure was falling apart, Solo Sikoa held everything together. He didn't ask for recognition. He didn't demand credit. He simply did what needed to be done to preserve his family's legacy. He rebuilt the bloodline from scratch. He gave opportunities to people like Jacob Fatu who didn't deserve them, and he led with quiet dignity and unwavering commitment. Solo Sikoa's vision for the bloodline was pure. He wanted to create a family unit that supported each other, that elevated each other, that stood together against the entire wrestling world. He believed in loyalty, in brotherhood, in the idea that family is more important than individual success. And how was he repaid for this noble vision? By being stabbed in the back by the very person he had trusted most. By being humiliated on national television. By having his leadership questioned and his authority undermined by an ungrateful opportunist who cared more about championship gold than family bonds. Here's the truth that Jacob Fatu doesn't want you to know: his United States Championship reign is meaningless. That title doesn't represent achievement, it represents theft. Every single day that Jacob Fatu holds that championship, he's stealing honor from Solo Sikoa, who was the real architect of everything that made Fatu successful. A championship is supposed to represent excellence, integrity, and the embodiment of what it means to be the best. But Jacob Fatu's reign represents the exact opposite. It represents betrayal, ingratitude, and a complete abandonment of everything that makes wrestling meaningful. When Solo Sikoa was leading the bloodline, that group had meaning. They stood for something. They represented the idea that family could overcome any obstacle, that loyalty was more valuable than individual glory, that working together was more powerful than fighting alone. But now Jacob Fatu has turned that championship into a symbol of everything wrong with modern wrestling. It's a reminder that betrayal pays off, that ingratitude is rewarded, that destroying family bonds is considered entertainment. There are questions that need to be asked about this entire situation, and Jacob Fatu needs to be held accountable for his answers. First, how does Jacob Fatu justify what he did to Solo Sikoa? How does he sleep at night knowing that he destroyed the man who gave him everything? How does he look at himself in the mirror knowing that his championship reign is built on the betrayal of his own family? Second, what kind of message is WWE sending by rewarding this behavior? Are we really supposed to believe that betraying your family is heroic? Are we supposed to celebrate the destruction of loyalty and brotherhood? Are we supposed to teach our children that ingratitude is acceptable if it leads to success? Third, where does this leave the bloodline legacy? How can any future members of this family trust each other when they've seen what happens to leaders who try to build something meaningful? How can anyone believe in the power of family when they've watched Jacob Fatu tear apart everything Solo Sikoa worked to create? What terrifies me most about this situation is what it means for the future of wrestling storytelling. If Jacob Fatu's betrayal is celebrated, if his championship reign is considered successful, if his complete abandonment of family values is treated as character development, then what hope do we have for meaningful wrestling narratives? Are we supposed to accept that every family group will eventually turn on each other? Are we supposed to believe that loyalty is weakness and betrayal is strength? Are we supposed to embrace the idea that individual success is more important than family bonds? The bloodline story was supposed to be about the power of family, about what happens when people work together toward a common goal, about the strength that comes from loyalty and mutual support. Instead, Jacob Fatu has turned it into a cautionary tale about how greed and selfishness destroy everything beautiful in this world. This is why I'm calling on every wrestling fan who believes in family values, who believes in loyalty, who believes in treating people with respect and gratitude, to demand justice for Solo Sikoa. We cannot let Jacob Fatu's betrayal be celebrated as some kind of heroic moment. Solo Sikoa deserves a rematch. He deserves the opportunity to reclaim his rightful place as the leader of the bloodline. He deserves to show Jacob Fatu what happens when you betray someone who believed in you. More importantly, Jacob Fatu needs to be held accountable for what he's done. He needs to acknowledge his betrayal. He needs to apologize to Solo Sikoa. He needs to make amends for the damage he's caused to the bloodline legacy. At the end of the day, this entire situation comes down to one simple truth: loyalty matters. Family matters. Gratitude matters. These aren't just wrestling storylines, these are fundamental values that define who we are as human beings. Jacob Fatu had the opportunity to show the world what it means to be loyal, to be grateful, to be a man of honor. Instead, he chose betrayal, ingratitude, and selfishness. He chose to destroy the very foundation that made his success possible. Solo Sikoa, on the other hand, has shown us what real leadership looks like. He's shown us what it means to sacrifice for others, to build something meaningful, to put family before personal glory. He's shown us what honor looks like, even in defeat. This is why I'm so angry about what happened at Night of Champions 2025. This is why Jacob Fatu's victory feels like a loss for everything good in wrestling. This is why Solo Sikoa's defeat feels like an injustice that cannot be allowed to stand. The wrestling world needs to understand that what we witnessed wasn't just a championship match, it was the destruction of everything sacred about family loyalty, and Jacob Fatu should be ashamed of what he's done to the man who gave him everything. What are your thoughts on this absolute travesty? Do you think Jacob Fatu's betrayal was justified, or do you agree that he's destroyed everything beautiful about the bloodline story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to share this video with everyone who needs to understand the truth about what really happened at Night of Champions 2025. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the Wrestling News CC family, where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.